Subscribe to our YouTube channel for in-depth interviews of India Inc. and press the bell icon so that you do not miss our updates.
Hello and welcome to Nirmal Bang, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Hiral Raja. We have with us Mr. Ajay Mahajan, MD and CEO at Care Ratings, joining in. Welcome to the show, Ajay, and it's a pleasure to speak to you as well. Firstly,
Thank you.
let's understand as to the kind of impact COVID has had on a lot of businesses. In fact, no one has been spared, no sector, no economy, no country. And that's something which we have now learned to live with as well. For a company like yours, now you have actually seen how different sectors, different verticals have been impacted, taking the ratings business into consideration. What's your assessment so far from March to now?
Yeah, thank you, Hiral. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Let me first give a disclaimer. I'm new to this business. I've been a banker all before,
Right.
and it's been about 5 months since I took over the business. And what a time to take over a ratings business, right? I mean, the timing couldn't have been better, I would say.
Yeah, I mean,
I
this
won't
would
say
have been the
worse.
best experience of your career by the time
Absolutely.
you finish.
I don't know why. Whenever there is a crisis in an industry, I find myself there. But that's besides the point. Let's squarely try to answer your question.
Hmm.
As you rightly summarize, the no sector has really been spared. The slowdown has hit us, and let's also sort of just take a step back and look at the way the economy was poised even before COVID. We have to sort of start there. And if you see in the last couple of years, we have seen a systematic slowdown in the GDP growth
Hmm.
numbers, right? I mean, ever since the demonetization, November 16, we haven't really seen a very sharp upswing in the economy. It has been gently guided down in terms of the GDP growth numbers. If you see right through 17, 18, 19, FY20, I thought last year we grew. FY20 was more like 4 point something, if I correctly remember my numbers. And now this year, of course, the projections are out to anything between -8 to -12, 15%, whatever. Take your pick there. So it is the point I wanted to make really was that we were in a slowdown. We were in a decelerating mode,
Hmm.
and capital goods sector relating all the investment demand related. Activity in the economy was anyway at a very low ebb. And on top of that, when the pandemic hit us, and as we all know very well, that the social distancing and all of that hurt the industry, and more importantly, the lockdown has really, got almost every sector reeling under the weight of complete contraction in demand. And you've seen that obviously sectors that depend a lot on the consumer walking into
Hmm.
malls or stepping into purchase of those items, there you have seen a much bigger contraction, like hospitality, travel, tourism, airlines businesses, fashion retail, luxury segments of the retail side, and so on and so forth. So those are really very badly hurt. And then if you look at more like the industrial segments, segments like metals, steel, capital goods, all of that are sort of more moderately impacted. And then the two or three sectors which still have a little bit of a bright spark in a very decelerating economy
Hmm.
is the agri side. Of course, the new agriculture policy and all that is being right now protested. But my sense is that these are reasonably good reforms, and we should actually see. And we've also seen a great southwest monsoon. The Kharif crop expectation is pretty much a record, 145 million tons expected. So we are seeing basically the food products, the agri side of the business, and a few other sectors like pharma, which has generally been on an upswing. That's a sector that has benefited somewhat. Then, sectors like paper and sectors like
Hmm.
IT have actually benefited substantially, and telecom through this lockdown, because everybody needed bandwidth to be in office and to be still in touch, or to be at
Right.
home and still be in touch with business. So it's been a mixed bag, but overall, I totally agree with you that this is the last thing that Indian economy could deal with at this time when there was already deceleration. But I guess we are now halfway through. We have seen a very bad first quarter results. I think the second would be better, the third would be even better. But overall, the average for the year is likely to be still sharply down. CARE's expectation is more like -8 to -9% growth for this year.
Right. And are we talking growth? I mean, are we talking about the GDP in terms of -8, -9?
That's right. Expected GDP contraction for the year,
Hmm.
CARE is at -8.8, if I correctly remember.
Right. And from there, do you think that FY22 will see a sharp double-digit growth, taking a lower base into consideration then? Or do you think we will still be, pretty much on the borderlines?
Yeah, so while we haven't actually done as CARE an official estimate of
Hmm, hmm,
FY22
hmm.
growth, so this answer that I'll give you is not a CARE answer, it's my own
Correct.
personal
Yeah.
hunch. But my sense is that we will see definitely an upswing, we will see a positive number, but I wouldn't yet be in the very bullish camp,
Hmm,
because I
hmm.
still believe that there are a lot of sectors that will take more than the next 6 months to come back. And let's also understand that the COVID curve itself is really in an upswing still today. It's not begun to
Correct.
moderate. Forget about tapering down. Once we start seeing tapering in that, then we will see the economic activity automatically come back. Now, while we are seeing that the government's guidance on this, obviously in the last 6 months, has changed substantially. When we did the lockdown, we were at
Hmm.
400 or 500 cases across the country. Today, we talk about a lack of cases, and we are talking about opening up instead of closing
Hmm.
down. So obviously, the economic compulsions have taken over, the initial fear that we all had, including the government. The fact is that it will take us, I think, more than 6 months for some of the sectors to fully come back, and therefore
Hmm.
some part of FY22 will get consumed, in my view, for demand to come back in the sectors, and therefore I don't see a V-shaped. I see more like a definitely upward sloping, but a moderate recovery in FY22.
Right. So taking this into consideration, what's happened so far is that you have the government which came out with a stimulus package, Ajay. The
Yes,
RBI went ahead and did, probably they cut the repo, reverse repo, they gave loan moratoriums, they reduced the LCRs, CRR has been cut as well,
sure.
and the NPA resolution has been given an extension of 6 months. Now, taking all of these factors into consideration, from March to now, are you seeing signs of improvement that yes, all of these things that the government and the RBI has done are really helping the system, are inducing credit growth? Or do you think something more needs to be done by the government to help sectors?
Well, actually, if you ask me, the direct intervention, we did the analysis when we talked about a 20 lakh crore
Hmm.
intervention on the package. And I think we were pretty much in line with the market median on it, that the actual intervention by the government in terms of actual stimulus that it provided was more in the region of 2 to 2.5 lakh crores. I
Hmm.
mean, take a pick anywhere plus minus 25,000 crores, but roughly around 2 to 2.5 lakh crores is where our pick was over the 20 lakh crores. Of course, the rest of the measures can't be discounted. The fact that there was almost an 8 lakh crores of stimulus provided by Reserve Bank of India through various liquidity measures, LTROs, TLTROs, and so on and
Hmm.
so forth,
Hmm.
those can't
Hmm.
be discounted. But those are more like monetary stimulus to get things going. But it wasn't a direct underwriting of credit risk or direct intervention in terms of government putting money or fund flow into a specific sector. So I think from there we have come definitely a long way. I'm not saying that that stimulus didn't help, but I think the industry still requires, to my mind, more inputs from the government, not specific to any sector. I would think other than infrastructure. I think basically the government needs to, in our view, at least think about what will it take to bring demand back, and from that point of view, our at least view is that sectors like infrastructure, where this could be a good time for some intervention. Obviously private capital should also be attracted, but somewhere where government can actually sponsor some projects and perhaps look to boost demand through creation of long term infrastructure. I would think
Hmm.
this is a good time for that. The fact remains that fiscally we are not in a great situation. We are talking of a 7% plus fiscal deficit, 8% likely. And then we are talking of the state deficits of 3.5%. So somewhere between the 11 to 12% combined fiscal deficit. And therefore, it is very unlikely that we have too much money to be able to pump prime the economy. But some targeted intervention in certain sectors, I think, is required. I truly believe that the 3 lakh crores of the central government liquidity line for the MSME business was a good move. It doesn't necessarily always have to be a funded line. It can be a non-funded line where a certain level of exposures are guaranteed to pump prime a little bit of lending and demand creation in certain sectors. As you know, the risk appetite of the banking system is very mutilated at this moment of time. The second moratorium ended with as much as 10% of total credit still under moratorium, which is not a small amount of money. We're talking about 10 lakh crores on 103 lakh crores base.
Correct.
And not all of that will probably meet the OTR eligibility. And therefore, even if 50% met it, you're still talking about a 5 lakh crores, which will be, with the fate of which is hanging in balance for the financial institutions in this country. And therefore, I think we are not out of the woods yet. We need to see the Q2 performance of banks. The Supreme Court judgment is still holding on the interest rates. That's been deferred to 5th of October. That possibly will not now impact the Q2 results, but potentially could impact Q3 results of the financial system. So my sense is that we are not out of the woods for sure. And I think if I read the finance minister's interview right today, I do believe that there could be a possibility of some targeted intervention by the government. We'd have to wait and watch as to what that could be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ajay, overall, I was just reading with regards to where CARE is concerned, with especially the modified credit ratio that's declined to a 26 quarter low in the first quarter of FY21.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you have to take CARE Ratings debt quality index into consideration, what is it indicating about the health of the economy? Probably not in number terms, but overall in terms of the mood, in terms of the entire, the way the system's been functioning right now.
Yeah, so we did a study recently, CDQI, as you rightly point out. We started this exercise on the 2011 or 2012 base, and as you said, without getting into numbers, the index has actually been certainly pointing down quite sharply. The MCR ratios have also hit pretty much a low, as you rightly said. So this is obviously reflective of the overall credit quality and the credit health of the companies we rate, right, in the marketplace. And this is not a surprise given what we just have talked about all this while around, the overall economic growth, the sectors pressures that have got accentuated with the current pandemic, and the fact that there has been a sharp sort of deterioration in earnings as well. So all of that reflects that the credit quality at this moment of time is certainly hurt quite substantially, and it will take a little while. So our view remains that we are at a near lowest point on the credit quality index as well. We have also done a latest index on the overall health of the industry. We call it CIC. And on that also, in Q1 of 21, we came in numerically at a number which is literally half of what it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Right. So clearly, from our point of view, the overall pressures in the economy are probably at their highest level. The GDP growth, I don't know when we saw a -9% contraction ever. Right, in our lives in this country, 5 or 6% was considered the lowest, and 7 to 8%, and people used to say we could potentially grow at 10, right? So from 5, 6 at the lowest end, we have gone to a -9. Obviously, that's the call it an act of God, or call it anything else, but this is unprecedented times. And needless to say, the credit quality and the business we do as a rating agency is entirely tied into how the leverage capability of the industry is, and today it's at its lowest point.
Right. So Ajay, overall, if you go to see, it's mainly lower borrowings by the NBFCs and other sectors, probably muted capex by the corporate sector. All of this is something which has impacted the first quarter as well. Yeah. How is the trend looking like now as things have started to open up? Which sectors, according to you, have been the worst hit, and which sectors are seeing signs of revival earlier?
Right. So, we again, it's a every sector has a different report card, so it's
Hmm.
very hard to talk about too many. But I'll just give you a sense
Correct.
of what I gathered from, let's say,
Hmm.
in an important sector like steel or
Hmm. Hmm.
metals in
Hmm.
general. There we have seen that there are some players who have actually focused a lot in the first quarter in terms of, as we all know, that in the month of March, April, the first month of the lockdown, the steel production in the country fell to probably 10% of what it was, right? So it was such a bad month. But from there, the companies have actually recovered substantially. And we saw that for the first quarter results, some of the players have actually begun to export quite aggressively. So in some cases, the medicine is, if the demand internally has got hurt so badly, there are no
Hmm.
infrastructure projects, there is no capex happening, and steel is very tightly linked to that, then start exporting out. So in some sectors, you have seen export pick up quite well.
Hmm.
In auto sector, we are seeing the wholesale numbers have improved quite substantially in the last
Hmm.
month or so. But we are not seeing that wholesale sort of numbers translate into retail demand
Retail.
yet,
Correct.
right? So the sectors are going through a massive, I would say, an inflection point in terms of whether we see sustainable demand or not. And this quarter, as we all know, the quarter that we are going to embark into shortly, will is normally considered a very boom month for consumer sector.
Hmm.
A boom quarter for consumer sector because of
Correct.
Diwali and festival season picking up and so on and so forth. So let's see how this goes. It's very hard to actually say that we are seeing any discernible endurable sort of trends yet in any of these sectors, but there should be definitely improvement as we go along, as the government also intervenes and focuses a little bit more on growth and jobs. Right now, the situation is not great on that, but we expect some more intervention coming in, and hopefully we should see, even if not a very sharp upward trend, we should see definitely gradual improvement in the consumer sentiment from here.
Right. And with this, Ajay, what's your view with regards to where banks go? I mean, what's the kind of impact you're envisaging on the financial institutions on the back of the moratorium that has been provided, especially if you have to take the slippages and asset quality into consideration? Because with this, if you talk about the demand for institutional credit, that has remained low.
Sure.
And the bank's lending has been impacting the flow of funds as well. So we're not seeing that good a credit growth, even if interest rates are low.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I totally agree. The interest rates are low because of, frankly, the steps that have been taken by the central bank to improve liquidity in the system. But
Mm.
and also the TLTROs and all of that are accessible only to highly rated credit-worthy borrowers. The fact is that liquidity therefore gets parceled out, or let's say fragmented, quite sharply at times like this when risk aversion is high. Commenting quickly on the banks,
Mm.
I was just looking at the credit and deposit growth numbers. No surprise that credit is has grown much lower, at a much lower rate, near 6%, as compared to deposit growth, which is more like 11 and a half, 12. And so there is the wedge is widening, so to say, between deposit and credit. And as a result, the CDR ratios of the banking system have declined from 73-74% to more like 71% for in the latest readings, which clearly tells you that the banks are not even able to lend or keep pace with the deposit accretion. And it tells you, therefore, that the risk appetite of the banking system is quite poor. And frankly, if I continued in my banking role today, what would I be worried about? I'd be worried about
Mm.
how my book is going to behave, as opposed to making a marginal decision to lend some more money and try and make 1 or 2 or 3% net interest margin on that marginal loan. In any case, the loan rates, I'm told, other than MCLRs, which have declined by about 70-75 basis points in the last 6 months, the loan rates have apparently crashed for the large borrowers or quality borrowers, simply because there is a flight to quality. So on the one hand, you have liquidity, but that liquidity is being deployed only in absolutely sort of risk averse manner into the highest quality credit borrowers. The moratorium we talked about, the arithmetic there is 10% of the numbers are of the total credit is still in moratorium. And do remember that 10% is not equally spread. There are banks that have focused on unsecured retail credit growth in the last few years as opposed to wholesale credit. So I think the retail segment, particularly the unsecured retail segment, I expect the credit costs to sharply move up by, if earlier the certain segments were at 2% to 3% credit costs, potentially they could move up to 8%, 10%. That's at least our internal hypothesis on the unsecured side, because, it's 6 months of moratorium and unsecured credit, you really don't have a collateral that you can enforce. So, some of those things are still things that worry me about the banking sector in general. And of course, the OTR scheme will deal with the wholesale credits and even the smaller credits. But on the retail side, I do believe that there could be a little more pain for banks to digest in the next 2 quarters.
Right. So taking all of this into consideration, Ajay, again, ratings business is something which is actually looking at all sectors across. I mean, there's no sector which is left untouched.
Sure.
What has been the impact of COVID on ratings as a sector?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Now, we like I said earlier, I pointed to it that as a ratings company, our focus really is to provide ratings to clients in regard to their borrowings, right? And we rate the rating scale, so to say, is basically a graded scale on which we rate our customers from the sort of highest risk to lowest risk possibility of repayment of those loans or the borrowings that clients make. So for us, this is the core activity. This is our only activity. And Care particularly is not so diversified into other businesses yet. So this is our core activity. And we are a mirror of the ability of the industry, both manufacturing and services, to leverage themselves in the market in many ways, right? Past momentum and other things aside, and that momentum has unfortunately worked against Care in the last couple of years because of our problems relating to the NBFC crisis in 2018-19, and it's common knowledge, so I have no problem in acknowledging that. So we had a negative momentum play on our top line revenues and on our earnings as well for the last couple of years. And obviously, if we are in a downward momentum, particularly Care gets hurt a little bit more than others through this time. We are trying to stabilize our shop. We are doing a few things to bring back ourselves into the game more solidly going forward, and we're relying on technology and many other things that we are employing internally to be able to be forcefully competitive in the marketplace. But to comment on your question, the fundamental to the rating agency is the leverageability of industry. And that leverageability, as we have discussed so far, is under deep threat through a massive slowdown. And automatically, therefore, the prospects of the rating business in terms of at least new players coming into the rating companies and saying, look, give me a rating because I need to borrow 500 crores or 100 crores more, that is hurt for sure. The second issue also is that the surveillance that we do, which is past ratings, keep coming out for a relook at the end of every year, if not faster. And if there are no material adverse triggers on those ratings, then those keep coming up for renewals every year. And at the time of renewal, we call it surveillance. They have to give us latest financial information. Now, the other trouble this year we are seeing is that when the surveillance comes up, the financial information is, for many companies, the mid and the small for sure, the financial information is not ready in time. And if the information is not ready in time, AGMs are not done, then we find it very hard to do surveillances. So the second issue is that there is a certain level of delay. Now call it a month, call it 2 months. It's very hard to give you an average number across the portfolio, but there are delays around getting audited financial information from customers, and therefore surveillances are getting hurt. So it's a double whammy in many ways. The initial ratings are not happening because the ability of new corporates to get more money from the banking system is low. We talked about credit growth only at 6% as opposed to deposit growth at 12%. So where is the incremental liquidity going? It's going into either LTROs or TLTROs, or it's going into RBI repos, 3 lakh crores of liquidity sitting with RBI every day. And so there is risk aversion, and that is also telling on ratings business and also on Care's business.
Right. So with all of this right now, if you have to look at, the kind of impact that we've already seen, now again, I'm sure that, the business mix is looking diversified. I know ratings is the primary business that we're looking at. However, if you talk about different segments, Ajay, in terms of say international expansion, the advisory, research and training, probably information analysis, and the risk solutions, do you think we are moving forward in a way where the other segments of business, which could become growth drivers as well, apart from the ratings business, which is maximum revenues for you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Hiral, you touch a very good point. And strategically, I would be remiss in my duty to tell you that this will be a very important accent area for CARE. We have actually a little bit of a pent up on this because for several years we have not necessarily, as opposed to our competitors, not diversified in as much aggressive manner as we should. Perhaps at least that's the thinking of the senior management and the board. So we are now going to be embarking upon a slightly more aggressive strategy on diversification or rating of our revenues, right? So we don't have a non-ratings business in as big a measure yet. We do have
Correct.
a reasonably smart company called CRSPL, which does risk management solutions for banks globally and sells into economies like Sri Lanka, sells into economies, some of the other economies like Asian economies like Vietnam, Cambodia, and some African countries as well. But we need to really press the pedal, both in terms of our incremental product strategy and also in terms of our geographical expansion in that space. Likewise, we have an advisory business which we need to really take impart substantial momentum to, and not think about a 20-30% sort of or 50% percentage growth, but we need to take it to a larger level where this non-rating revenue becomes a good 25-30% or even more over the next couple of years. And that's where exactly the point that you raised, that we are thinking artificial intelligence and machine learning. We are thinking of changing, at least in the lower end of the rating scale, where the costs are not met by the ticket sizes of revenues in SME space, MSME space. The smaller companies are not in a position to afford our the services of a specific RM and a specific business development person and a ratings person assigned to them. So what we want to do is move into more algorithmic ratings at some stage, at least at the lower end. And there is a lot of work that we plan to do. Have we done all the work? Not really, but are we paving the ground for that? For sure we are, and we will be held accountable to what we are saying going forward. So we are completely committed to two or three things: changing the internal sort of workflow systems and automating them, to a more aggressive use of artificial intelligence and machine learning in terms of our assessment of distance to default calculations, and therefore the assignment of ratings. And third, using more credit analytics and data analytics, things that we know, things that we are in a knowledge domain industry. We know, as you rightly said, we know 70 or 80 sectors reasonably well. Have we applied that? Have we applied that to build a aggressive advisory business to our customers and build data analytics a business of the future? Right? That is something that will be our focus going forward. So thanks for asking me this question. It's very useful.
Right. And with this, so FY20 as a year, if I go to see, the CARE had to rely a lot in terms of a surveillance income was concerned. And actually, the overall performance did reflect the same as well. If you have to talk about FY21, 22, 23, how will that change? How much of your revenues will come from surveillance income? Do you think that pie reducing?
Well, I think two things really. One is that as the overall debt that we rate in year zero, let's say I call it year zero, if I rate fresh debt in 2020, then typically the debt is not all bullet. So and it's amortizing. So as time passes, the amount of debt outstanding on the same company that are rated in 2020, in 2023, that debt, the total amount of debt outstanding on the same bond issue will probably be lower, because there will be some amortization of principal that would have happened. There is in the case of NCDs, or even in the case of bank loans, there are repayments, prepayments all the time. So my sense is that but then that gets sort of supported by fresh surveillances that we would have done in, or fresh ratings that we would have done in 22, that will
Mm,
come up for
mm,
surveillances in 23. So it's very
mm,
hard, Hiral, to comment on what happens to the
mm.
breakup of the pie, because a surveillance in 23 could be a 3-year surveillance for something that we rated 3 years ago, a 2-year
Right.
surveillance for something that we rated 2 years ago, so a
Correct.
1-year surveillance for something we rated
Mm,
1 year ago.
mm, mm,
And therefore
mm,
it's very hard to say the amalgamated picture. How will
mm.
that look year on year? It's very hard for me to say that, but I can
Right.
say this to you. I can say this to you for sure, that the initial rating revenue, is definitely under pressure. Last year we did initial rating and surveillance enhancements. Last year,
Mm,
instead of 18 lakh crores that we did in FY19, we did only 12 lakh crores last year. So there was a
mm,
reduction, and that reduction was in line with the GDP reduction, or a GDP slowdown. I won't call it reduction, but
mm,
we did have a slowdown from 6% plus numbers to 4 point something numbers. And then specifically industry, infrastructure, and financial services, that account for a large part of our ratings. BFSI is a very big domain for us. Likewise, infrastructure is a big domain for us, because these are debt consuming sectors. And there we saw some slowdown. My
right.
sense is that I see the ratios broadly in FY21 be in line with FY20, as I assess
Mm.
it. It is, and if things change, we will keep you posted. But at this moment, my hunch is that we should see FY21 initial and surveillance split pretty much similar
Mm.
to what we saw last year.
Right. And overall, if you see in terms of growth as well, if you have to take the next 2 to 3 years into perspective, taking the newer businesses into consideration, how are you envisaging growth to be in terms of top line? Because there was a year, probably 2019, we did see a revenue of almost around 350 odd crores. Last
Yeah,
year, probably FY20, we've come down to 270, 280 odd crores. And
yeah.
this year, obviously, because of COVID, we probably would go down slightly further. However, the next 3 years, if you have to look at it, do you think we will be able to bounce back to a little over 350 odd crores as a year, or it could be something better?
Yeah, so it's again, it's a very good question you ask. It all depends. I don't want to give you defensive answers. I don't.
Yeah,
I,
I'm
I never
sure.
like that, because unless we work towards some tangible targets, what's the point? We have to add value. So I will not give a defensive answer, but let me tell you this: that the rating revenues in this
Mm,
country have pretty much not moved in line with the underlying debt market expansion, right? And so, in other words, if debt markets grow by 20%, it's not that the rating revenue necessarily across the industry, not just for CARE,
mm,
grows by 20. And the reason for that is that the pricing pressures every industry faces, and we also face those pricing pressures. So first and foremost, the growth of the rating revenue depends on two things: the amount of the volume that we rate, and also the price that we rate at. And we want to make sure that our pricing going forward is not cheaply discounted vis-a-vis competition. So that part we are very clear, right? Because we are not a discount house. We are
correct,
going to be a quality ratings company. And if we
correct.
are a quality ratings company, that our prices will be the best in the industry. We will not be compromising our prices in any way. So that's very clear. And the second part is then therefore the volume. Now, volume, as we said, that it depends on how sharp the bounce in FY22, FY23 on economic activity will be. But let's be very honest. I mean, there will definitely be growth in FY22 over the contraction in FY21, right? So we should benefit in general. How much will be up by 10, 20%? I'm not sure. But I can tell you this, that the non-ratings piece of the
Mm,
business might take a year or two to come. So it is very hard for me to find the confluence
correct,
of when
correct.
non-ratings will start adding to my ratings revenue. But if you gave me 3 years, I would say we should try to cross the 350 crores gross revenues that you saw for us earlier in FY19. We should definitely look to cross that. By how much? And that, to my mind, is a modest target. We would want to cross that substantially. That is
Absolutely.
where I will keep it. How What will be the mix like? Very hard for me to tell.
I'm
But
sure,
we will
I'm sure.
definitely want to get back to the laurels that we had before.
Absolutely, really positive on that as well, and awaiting those kind of numbers once again, Ajay. Good luck for the same, and thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining us. Great insights that we've picked up about CARE, about the ratings business, and the economy insights that you've given us as well. Thank you so much for joining in,
Thank you.
and I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well, and we will see you back soon
Absolutely.
again. Stay
Yes,
safe.
absolutely. Hiral, was absolutely a pleasure of mine that you invited us, and thanks to Nirmal Bang as well. Thank you so much.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you soon again.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you.